Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. This is an impromptu live stream that I decided to jump on and do because I woke up today and my son is gone, Evan. He's at his grandmother's house, and my wife is like, I'm really tired, I'm going to sleep in. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to sleep in because I can't do that. It's impossible for me to do that. It's just not in my blood. Uh, so I thought, hey, I'll jump on here. And if you've seen the title, obviously, of the video, there is a question that I've been getting quite a bit in my comments. And, obviously, the reason that the question is, how do I make my top 10 lists? Because a lot of people are like, hey, you're putting stuff on your list I wouldn't put on my list. So how are you even making these lists? And I'm like, okay, so let me just go ahead. I just kind of want to run you guys through what it is that I do. And welcome to everybody who's popping up. We have 19 people already. We're only like, not even a minute in. So, hey, everybody, welcome. But hey to Dawn and Gamer Dawn being the first one in here. Gamer Fan 27, Indian Honey, awesome. And I'm glad, hopefully, that this is at a time where maybe some of you are catching a live stream. Normally, I do them Thursday evenings, which I know is weird, but it works out for me. So, um, so what I'm probably going to do is I do want to go through the process of what it takes for me to make a top 10 list. And I have been doing more of these top 10 lists. Um, because you know what? It's funny because I was only doing like one every so often before. And then, I was like, I really like doing these. And, I've kind of got like a process down for them. So it's actually not all that difficult to make a top 10 list for me now, as long as I have like a strong, concept for the list that I want to put out there. And the feedback that I get from those lists too are very interesting because it's either this list is the worst thing ever and you suck, or oh my God, you have opened my eyes to songs I've never even thought of. So awesome. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. I like the second one, obviously. But it's interesting when people if I was to say like your favorite, Prince love song, like every single one of us is likely to have a different answer. And that's the thing is like, your list sucks is probably that's the wrong response. First off, it should be, hey, that's awesome that you love those songs. Here are the ones that I like. And, that's how that works. I'll never tell anybody that their choices are wrong. But I will be like, hey, that's not one that I would have put on my list. Tell me more. Tell me more of why you like that song. So that's what just one of those things. It's just one of those weird responses that you get when um, when I put up my list specifically, and I'm sure other people get it, from all. I'm trying to change the lighting because I'm getting like a weird glare in my glasses. Um, is that from the screen or is that from the? No, it's definitely from the lights. All right. So anyway, it's a weird thing, and I know that that is something that is at the core of, I think, any fan base and community. It's one of those things where like if 90% of the community has decided that this song is the thing, then it's like, okay, well, now if I was to say, well, actually, I really like this song, no, you're wrong. And it's like, okay, like, you know, bring it down a notch or two. Like, that's the thing about these top 10 lists. And, what's the best guitar solo? What's the best this song, that song? It's all subjective. If I made a list and you made a list, it would be two different lists. So it's just weird. It's just weird that there's so much disparity and not even just disparity, but just like aggression, I would say. Like a lot, some people, like the golds, like on my last list was the top 10 funky songs. It was up a couple of days ago. That's a really fun list that I made. Um, and the interesting thing is that the last two lists I actually made at the same time, but obviously I put them up 2 weeks apart. But I actually wrote them out and like scripted them and everything at the exact same time. But I'm trying not to like release too many like back to back. I'm like trying to space them out. Also, that gives me, time to think of new different things. But the first one was top 10 party songs, and it was funny because what I wanted to do was I was trying not to have songs repeat. And I did have one song repeat on both lists, but I was like, I'm making these two lists, top 10 party songs and top 10 funky songs. And that's an interesting thing because a lot of party songs are funky and a lot of funky songs can be played at parties really well. So I was like, well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it up. It allows me to basically highlight, 20 funky party songs. um, so I decided to do that. And when I put out the party songs, everybody's like basically listing off all of the songs I have on the funky songs list and saying, why weren't these on the party song list? And then when I release the funky song list, I have people basically saying all of the songs that are on the party song list should have been on the funky song list. And I'm like, all right, I mean, like, do you guys not see the connection? Like, you're really not seeing that, like, they're kind of one and the same. But I mean, that's cool though. That's, you know, take it however you guys want to take it. Um, okay, so I've rambled for a bit here. So here's my process of when I am gonna make a Prince list. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to kind of not do a whole list here with you, but somebody give me a topic, like a list topic in the chat, and then I'm going to kind of run you through very quickly as to how I might come up with this list. So give me a topic. I'm just gonna go for like, you know, as soon as I see like three or four, I'm gonna pick one of those. All right, so I did screams already. I've actually done love songs, but you know what? Let's do love songs. Or actually, that's a pretty good one though. Religious songs, and that's the thing too, right? Is I've actually, just side note here, I've actually been trying to come up with a top 10 like spiritual songs, but like spiritual and religious are kind of different things, and there are some songs that are spiritual but not religious, and some that are religious but also have a twinge of spirituality. It's kind of a weird thing. So, but let's just take, I mean, I guess that's just like a normal thing. So, but let's take like religious songs, right? So the very first thing that I do, this is step number one, is I actually go through my Prince collection because, like, why not? So the first thing I would do is I would go to my iTunes here and I'll go do 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 do. Where's my Prince stuff here? And what I would do is I would say, all right, well then let's start from the beginning and let's talk about let's go through each album and say, okay, on For You, what would be some religious songs on here? Let me see. For You, In Love, Soft and Wet, Crazy You. Not really seeing any religious songs. All right, so let's go to Prince. Now here's the thing about Prince is that Prince itself is actually a lot of people have said that like almost the entire like a few of the songs on here or most of the songs on here can actually be taken in a religious context. I have yet to dive too deep into that. Um, but like the I Want to Be Your Lover, that's actually one that has been said to be religious. So right there I'd throw religious on. I'd throw I Want to Be Your Lover on the list. Bam, one song on the list. Let's go to Dirty Mind. Are any of these religious? When You Were Mine, Got a Broken Heart Again. Not really seeing many of those being like hardcore religious. Some of these might have like undercurrents of religion, but not necessarily like religious. Well, we're on Controversy. Sexuality has to be on there. Any Christian has to be on there. So that's two right there from Controversy. Then we go to 1999. What religious songs are on here? Let's see. let's see. Not many. There's like there's definitely some political ones on 1999. Not necessarily any religious ones. Let's pretend we're married. I guess kind of has something to do with that because marriage being a religious institution and stuff. So we might be able to say like that's one. So I'll throw let's pretend we're married on there. 1999 also technically is about Armageddon, which is a religious concept. So you could technically say that that's one. I see somebody says Free. Free is one of those that's more a political song than a religious song. But that's kind of, neither here nor there. So there's that. Purple Rain. Now see, Purple Rain is where you get into the ones that like it's kind of all there. So, the Let's Go Crazy has to be on there. I Would Die for You, obviously. Purple Rain, obviously. So that's three right there. So essentially that's what I would do is I would go album by album and I would just jot down 2 to 3 songs per album that I can find and say, bam, 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 here's a bunch of songs that are all religious. Um, then, then I do kind of do a little bit of a thing because then the next thing that I do, let me just go ahead and say that. Then the next thing I do, so step 2 is I basically go through and I throw out any songs that were kind of on there due to technicalities and stuff like that. So some of the songs, like even some of the ones we just mentioned, I probably would just take off because there would be songs on the list that are just like obvious religious songs. And then there's other ones that are like, could be religious, I guess. I would just take off the could be religious ones. So there's that. Then I also have a standing rule, and the only list that doesn't follow this rule is my very first list that I made. And I kind of wish that I had followed this rule from the beginning, but I do have a rule about not having multiple songs from the same album on the same list, because that's the thing about Prince is that some of his albums had very clear themes. So if and clear tones and clear paths, clear directions. So you might have something like best religious song. If we take that, you know if I was to say, well, no, somebody Live for Love, the whole Rainbow Children album, exactly. And that's the problem there. If I don't limit myself to a song per album, then I'll be like, well, The Work and the Rainbow Children and Everlasting Now. And like, I would just list off all of the Rainbow Children songs. But no, limiting myself to one song per album, it kind of forces me to be able to draw from different albums and not try to harp on just one. So I do try to do that. That happened on my the best political songs list. People were like, well, where's Dear Mr. Man? And where's this one off of Musicology? Where's this one off of Musicology? I'm like, well, I picked Cinnamon Girl. So as soon as I picked Cinnamon Girl, I can't pick any of the other ones. You can only have one of them. So there's that sort of thing. So like I've had a lot of fights when people would be like, you have 1999, but not DMSR. And I was like, well, I actually thought that 1999 fit the bill a little bit better than DMSR. And I think DMSR does deserve a place on the list. But since I can only have one of them, 1999 had to win. That was off of the party songs list. But anyway, so as soon as I so I've made a long list. Usually I start off with at least 40 to 45 songs usually, just because there's so much content out there. And I do try to steer away from too much unreleased stuff. Every so often there'll be a unreleased song that I'll be like, oh, like I really need to put that one on there. But even the unreleased is different than, say, if it was released through the MPG Music Club, does that count as unreleased because it wasn't like through a distributor and through a record company? Or is it that that does count as unreleased and it should not be on there? But like my party songs list had Mad on it, which is one of my favorite songs from the Slave era. And it's one that a lot of people have heard but haven't even know that they've heard. and because it's not readily available out there, it's probably on YouTube. Lots of stuff is on YouTube. Um, so yeah, so there is that sort of thing there. uh so I've gone through, I've put and made a list of at least 40, 50 songs, and then I sort through them and throw out some obvious ones and keep the main really strong ones. Then I make the ones that are from the same album contend against each other, and I have to pick which one. Then usually at that point I'm left with 15 to 20 songs usually. um, Ooh, and then that's where it really comes down to it. Because what I don't like to do a lot of the time, and I do this from time to time, but honorable mentions, a lot of people are like, why don't you no honorable mention for this song or that song? And I'm like, I feel like honorable mentions are just like, if it's strong enough to have an honorable mention, then it's strong enough to be on a second version of this list if I do a second list. So why mention it now? I'll probably do a second part of the list down the line or whatever. A lot of the time I usually end up like not putting honorable mentions. I just say like, hey, here's what ended up on my top 10. Let's move on. Let's have fun with it. But so yeah, so a lot of the time I'll end up with 15 to 20. And if I end up with 20, sometimes I go ahead and I make a second list. So yeah, I mean, so that's kind of the process. But a lot of it is when I'm down to that, 15 to 20, it does come down to, personal preference. And, somebody asked like, well, do you, ask the community? And I'm like, no, not really. If I'm ever like stuck, if I was ever like super stuck and I'm like, hey guys, I really can't decide between these two songs, let me know. But I've never been the type of person who is not able to decide between songs. Um, because what ends up happening a lot of the time is people who can't decide between songs is them feeling like, if I say I like this song better than this song, then that's me saying that this song sucks. And it's like, no, that's not you saying that song sucks. If I have on my funky songs list, I have musicology at number 1 and I have DMSR at number 10, and it's not because I think, DMSR compared to musicology sucks. No. But I like musicology more than DMSR. That's completely fine. So it's okay. I made a video about that. It's okay to like things. It's okay to like things more than another thing. That's where the whole Michael Jackson Prince, conundrum comes in. People are like, well, obviously you hate Michael Jackson since you like Prince so much. And I'm like, why? Like, I like both. I like one more than the other, obviously. but I like both. Um, but anyway, that's why the Prince brackets, and I have another Prince bracket that I actually made up, probably coming soon. That one, that was a really fun series of videos, and you guys seem to like it, but I also got criticized a lot. How could you pick that song over the other song? It's like, oh, and that was the biggest one, was I had picked Emancipation over Purple Rain, and people like lost their minds. They were like, well, you just lost all credibility because you prefer that song over the one that I like better. It's just so funny. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I started going into the brackets, but the brackets actually kind of have a place in this conversation about when you're making these, top 10 lists and stuff like that. I see a comment here. Don't limit yourself to 19 or 20 songs. It's just like, well, okay, so there's the thing. So when you're talking about like playlists you're just gonna play, sure, of course, like that's fine. Like you can if it's a playlist, I throw lots and lots of songs on there. But if it's a top 10 list that I'm making for video, um, here's the thing about YouTube is people have a certain amount of time that they are interested in a certain topic. And when it comes to top 10 lists, um, a lot of the time people are very, very interested in getting to the number 1 as quickly as possible. So if you were to do a top 20 list, it's like, I've actually seen the stats of like top 20 lists. A lot of people skip right to number 10 because they're like, well, the first 20 don't, the first 10 don't even matter. I kind of want to just see what the top 10 were. So just imagine if I did like a top 20, top 25, top 30 of this whatever. It's like people don't care. And even on my top 10 lists, like some people skip right to like number 5 or number 2. It's funny, like, because you can see all the analytics and like where people are watching and stuff in the back end of YouTube. And there are a lot of people who just skip like half the video because they're like, I'm not really interested in the bottom of the list. I want to see what the big ones are. But what I've also learned from doing lists, and this is not something that I will probably ever subscribe to, is that people watch lists in order for their opinions to be validated, and that's not anything that I'm technically interested in doing. So, for instance, like people are like, well, you made a top 10 list, but it didn't have this song on it. And I'm like, yeah, because I didn't think it fit my list because it's my list. So that's kind of the thing is like there's a certain thing there when it comes to psychology. Like really you're watching a top 10 list because you're like, I want this person to validate my opinion, and I want them to say that their favorite was my favorite so that I can be like, hey, this guy says I'm right. And what ends up happening with my lists quite a bit is people don't get that because they're like, there's so many comments on my videos that are like, even just in the funky songs ones, like, no, Prince's funkiest songs was Erotic City and Housequake and this song from Controversy and this song from Purple Rain and this song. And I'm like, oh, so all his funkiest stuff was from 81 to 87 and he had nothing funky after that. Is that what you're trying to tell me? It's like, it's cool, dude. Don't worry about it. I see one here, like the Ultimate TV says, I would only really check the top 5, and see, that's that. But here's the thing is when you're making a video, you also do want it to be a certain length, because if you make it too short, then people are like, oh, well, that's a weird thing with algorithms and people's interest, because if it's too short, then people are like, well, then it must not be in depth. But if it's too long, then people are like, I'll just skip half of it. So I think top 10s actually work really well in terms of me making the lists. Now, I have been doing the top 10. I have been doing the top 5 songs off of each album of Prince's. I've been doing that. People seem to be enjoying that, so I'm going to continue that series, going forward, along with all my other series and different things that I do on this channel. I have so many different things that I like to do on the channel, and it's because I get bored easily. So just so you know, I like to experiment, and I get bored easily. It's something I learned, from Prince, kind of a long time ago. So anyway, but yeah, so anyway, now I forgot what I was doing. Yeah, so I do the top 5 lists, but when I do the top 5 lists, I'm actually also talking a lot more about each song. So the length of the video gets filled up a bit by me kind of rambling on about why I love the song so much. Whereas with the top 10 lists, I really make each entry into the list very succinct. I'm like, here's number 7 and here's why, bam, moving on to number 6, because that's how those kinds of videos are to be consumed. But if it's just me like ranting about what my favorite songs on an album are, I could talk about that forever. So so those ones are allowed to be slightly longer. So anyway, hopefully that makes a little bit more sense as to the process that I use for making my top 10 lists. And like I said, really the biggest thing that gets me most of the time when people start to disagree with my lists is when I have kind of limited myself to a single song off of, any album. Because there's so many songs that like hit a certain vein and you're just like, like, yo, man, like, top political songs was a big one that happened on. But like love songs, like Prince will have multiple love songs that are amazing on a single album. And it's like, but if I want this album represented on the list, I have to pick the one off of this album that I like the most. And then what ends up happening is I go, that's the one that I like the most. And then somebody will be like, why did you pick that one? That one is obviously more superior off of that album. And I'm just like, oh gosh, like you just can't win. You can't win when you make these lists. It's just hilarious. and that's all I can do is I can just kind of laugh at the whole situation. It's just but it's a lot of fun though. It's a lot of fun making the lists, and I'm glad that honestly, like so many people are enjoying them. And again, one thing that I've seen a lot is I think Gold Standard on the new list, the newest list, the funky songs. I think Gold Standard was it number 8? Oh, I don't even remember because I'd have to go back and watch it. But I believe it was like, it wasn't super high on the list, but there were a lot of comments that were like, wow, you know what? I forgot all about the Gold Standard. That song is so funky. And you know what? That's the response that I love to get. I love to get the response of people who are like, your lists are opening my eyes up to songs that I would have never thought of. Because all I think of when I think of funk is I think of the 80s funk hits. But you know what? Those songs you mentioned are also really, really cool. And maybe they don't show up on my top 10 list, but I'm glad that they're on yours. And again, that's the correct response. The correct response is the response where you respect other people's opinions, just as I respect everybody else's opinions. The wrong response is, I don't see this song on the list or that song on the list, because usually I respond with a snarky comment. I go, because it's not on the list. I'm sure that pisses people off. It's just what I do. Um, it's anyway, I like to have fun, and I apologize if I've responded to any of your comments with snark. But I've gotten snarkier. I've definitely gotten snarkier. uh so anyway, real quick, I'm going to take a few minutes and just go through here and see if you guys had any questions, specific questions about this process or just in general that I'll hit before I'm going to let you guys go. I was going to try and make this kind of a limited live stream just to kind of have fun on a Sunday morning. But let's go ahead and see what we have here. Let's see. GamerFan27, by the way, a couple months ago, around January, I had anxiety, and guess who got me through it? My family, you, and Prince's music. Thank you so very much. You know, I mean, thank you. I appreciate that so much, GamerFan 27. The weird thing with anxiety, we all suffer from, our own bouts with anxiety. Obviously, some people have it worse. I don't know if anybody follows me on Facebook, but I did share a story. Like there, I had severe, severe anxiety, like to the point of agoraphobia. And this was, I think we're going on like 6 years ago. I think it was around there. And it was due to, medical issues that I was having, and it made it really hard for me to leave the house. And I couldn't drive, I couldn't do a lot of things, and it was all anxiety based. And what ended up happening with that is, I finally found the right doctor who didn't just tell me that it was all in my brain, and we found the root cause. And then I started taking a medicine, and then like a year later, I could start driving again. And flash forward to today, and I can actually take the wheel for long-term trips. And my anxiety still gets the better of me when I'm behind the wheel, and when I'm leaving my house and whatnot. But like I'm at least 90% better than I was. And so when people say like I had anxiety for a month, I understand that, because I had anxiety that was crippling anxiety for at least 2 years of my life, where I would cry, like I would cry uh, at times. I wouldn't say every day, but like just because I felt trapped in my own head and in my own body. And it was hard. So I mean, so I definitely understand anxiety. So if anything I did helped you get through those really hard times, um, you honor me more than I probably deserve. So um, so thank you, and hopefully you're going to be able to get to a place where that anxiety, it goes away, at least mostly, because it's never going to absolutely go away. So anyway, that was a longer answer than I was expecting, and I apologize for that. I get deep sometimes. I almost cried just thinking about the times when I used to cry, because that was a really bad time in my life. Love your show and telling us all about Prince. You are the best. Thank you, Carlene. I appreciate that. Let's see. top 10 songs Prince covered. So here's the thing. I actually did some videos. Well, I think they're actually kind of the opposite. I did some videos a while back that was songs that Prince songs that other people covered. And if you go search my channel, you will not find those videos on my channel anymore. And it's because the copyrights, when it comes to that sort of thing, are really, really harsh, and they got taken down. Pretty much as soon as my channel got like to a certain level, then all of my questionable videos that I made near the beginning of my channel kind of got started getting hit with copyright claims and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I was kind of on the line with that one. So yeah, so some of those got taken down. You're not really going to find them on there anymore. I think there's one. I think there's still one that got it's still on there, but like I had like 6 or 7 and they all got taken down. So songs that Prince covered, then you might be running into the same sort of thing. So I've kind of stayed away from songs Prince covered or people who covered Prince, just because then you're messing around with different record companies, and they all have their hands in that song. So I've been trying to avoid those. I haven't done that though. So there you go. May you live to see the dawn. Thank you so much. May you live to see the dawn. I love it. Who said you suck? I want names. Oh, just go through the comments. There are lots of people who say I suck. And it's weird. Like, if there's a difference between like you suck as a person and I hate you versus like, hey, I don't agree with your list. And, if it's I don't agree with your list, then they're probably there. But if it's like you suck as a person and you're the worst and, belligerence, you might not find those in the comments, because I'm just, I don't really even have time in my day for that level of negativity. So see you later. That's just me. So yeah. So let's see. NR99, my first live stream. Welcome. Hopefully you're enjoying it. These are just kind of fun. I only just noticed that you have a similar mustache to Prince. Similar, he would do this and then it would go like there. He would do that sometimes. Or he would just have the mustache. He never did this. He never had the goatee going. But that was something I started doing after I went to a barber shop. Because normally I would have like the full thing here. And then after I went to a barber shop, I think it was like, well, how long ago? Maybe a year ago, I went to a barber shop, and they were like, "You want me to do up your beard?" And I'm like, "Yeah, do my beard." And like he did this, and like got rid of all this, and I was like, "Whoa, I like that like way better." So I started doing that. But it wasn't even until like I saw it on my face that I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna do that. Anyway, this isn't like a hair care channel. I'll stop. Who do I think is Prince's best Prince, the best Prince protege? That's an interesting question, Stephen. I think also it stands to reason, like, how do you define protege? Because there are a lot of people who Prince brought on into his bands and stuff that didn't necessarily wasn't necessarily his protege. They were a member of the band and they contributed and all that stuff. A protege, in my opinion, is somebody that Prince kind of took under their wing and started to teach them how to do things and to get outside their box and all that stuff. But I wouldn't even say that like every member of his band would constitute a protege. That's kind of a weird thing. So the first thing I'd have to do is define that before I could even start answering that. I mean, the obvious ones like Sheila E., Shelby J., those people, easy. Those are the easy answers, but I probably would want to like dig deeper. Like, for instance, like Rosie Gaines, I wouldn't say is a protege. I feel like Prince picked her. She came on and did an album and contributed some stuff to some tracks. And then she left because he wasn't paying her enough. And she came back because he offered her some more gigs, and then she went away again. And it was just like, kind of a back and forth. But I don't think that she necessarily learned a ton from Prince, but I really liked the commingling of their voices on a track. So like Rosie Gaines wouldn't be on the list, but then Shelby J definitely would, because like she looked to Prince as a mentor, and he really did teach her a lot of things, and stuff like that. So That would be a fun list to make, but I would have to be like really strict on my definition, I think. So that was also a longer answer than I was expecting. Uh, um, let's see. Oh yeah, so now we're all to the ideas for songs, and some of these are really good, like best slave era songs. But the thing about best slave era songs is like then you know I have like definitely a smaller pool of songs to deal with, which then that's actually the thing. A lot of people think that like the fewer songs the easier it is, but really it's like the fewer songs and the more constraints you place on yourself, the harder the choice becomes. Because if I can just pick whatever, then I'll just pick whatever. But if it's like you can pick whatever, but they have to be from these years, and you can't have more than one per album, and you like all, it's like, oh man, like that makes it way tougher. So anyway, um, see, and that's the thing. So Art Collector, when I was coming up with like the top religious songs, the song Controversy contains the Lord's Prayer. So I'm like, wow, like that's a really good point. But does that make it the most religious song on there just because it has the Lord's Prayer in it? And then I would have to make that decision. Controversy, I think the other two that I mentioned was Sexuality and Anti-Christian. So then at the end of that, I would be like, all right, well, this one has the Lord's Prayer, but is otherwise not really about religion. Sexuality is very much about religion and spirituality. And then you have Anti-Christian, which is a kind of like a interesting song about the Antichrist. Um, so those are three religious songs from the same album, and I would have to pick which out of those three I think best represents the idea. So you would have, this one that's more conceptual over here with Anti-Christian. It's also less on the musical side, like it's harder to listen to for me. So it's like, I guess, not as good a song. Like, so I would say like if I was to rank those three songs, Anti-Christian would be number 3 in terms of like me listening to it as a song. And then so I would probably say like, all right, well that one doesn't fit. So then let's go Controversy versus Sexuality. Sexuality is a song about spirituality and religious experiences and all that stuff. Controversy is not about that, but has the Lord's Prayer. So I would say, so I'd be like, okay, cool. So if I was to put one of those songs from there on the top religious songs, Sexuality would probably be my choice because it has the message and I like it best as a song. So there you go. Like that's the process there. To kind of break that down a little bit more. Um, couldn't you say all his songs are about sex, God, and then random topics thrown in anyway? Yeah, you could, but it's also fun to discuss kind of like what songs are the best ones for the individual topics. And that's honestly that was the thing with making a top 10 funky songs list is that, people are going to be like, well, that song's funky, this song's funky, that song's funky, this song's funky. It's like, yeah, they're all funky. It's like because you can't take the funk out of the man. But I have to come up with a list of the most funky songs in my opinion, and that's not even to constitute there's dance funk, there's deep funk, there's like soulful funk, there's like bluesy funk. Like I'm not even separating the lists out like that. So if you listen to the list, my version of funk is more deep funk. It's like that slower, like deeper groove. So there are more of those on the list than there are, say, dance funk or jazzy funk or whatever on there. And again, if you made that list, it would be a completely different list. You might have more dancey funk. You might have more things like Sexy Dancer and Let's Work and all that stuff on it. But that was the thing is that I just put Let's Work on, top 10 party songs. So I was trying not to do like, I'm not just trying to make the same list over and over again. I'm not that, I'm not that hard up for clicks that it's just like, I'll just put up the same list and then just give it a different name and they'll like it again, right? Oh, no, thank you. Hey, Johnny's here. Hey, everybody say hi to Prince Elvis Jackson 88. Johnny, he did the Elvis versus Prince videos with me. Thanks for showing up, dude. I didn't even notice that you were in there in the chat. So thank you for showing up. Okay. All right, let's see if there are any other questions. I'm gonna not keep you guys for too much longer. I'm also not one to, this is from Neil. I'm also not one to watch lists to validate my opinions, but more so I like to give my favorites, like the top 10 funkiest Prince songs you did recently. And yeah, and honestly for me, like that goes with any list that I watch, like not even just Prince stuff, but like I will sometimes, like I'll go on like Watch Mojo or like Looper or whatever, and I'll be like, I actually just watched one. What was it? Oh crap. It was like all of the reasons why the Dreamcast was great. And I was like, you know what? I really liked my Dreamcast when I had one. But let me see what their 10 things about the Dreamcast is. And you know what? It was so funny because their number one and like number two were just like, really? But like, I really dug like all the stuff they were saying pretty much up to their top ones. And it made me feel very nostalgic. And I was like, oh yeah, I did love that. Man, I forgot all about that. And that's what I hope that my lists do, is not, they're not just there to, tell you you're right and that your favorite is the best one, but that just hearing a snippet of a song that maybe you haven't heard in a while will be like, man, I gotta go listen to that song again. Um, so anyway, yeah. So let's see. Uh, what you put in your brains is what you get out, from Carlos. That's pretty good. I like that. Um, that's not too bad at all. So let's see, Henry. Just got home from the store. Did you get on with Robin's single? You know what? You suggested that I go listen to it, and then I said, "Man, I'm gonna go listen to it." And then I got super busy and actually haven't gone and listened to it. My wife is into Robin though. I'm gonna actually, let me make a list here. I'm gonna like make a list to go and listen to Robin's song right after this. I'm gonna go do that after this. So anyway, so let's see. Let's see. How long should a top 10 list be? It's a weird 10 songs. Are you talking about a video? uh, I usually like to have it be like at least 8 minutes, like 7 or 8 minutes. And some of them have gone up into the 9 minute one, like if I had a lot to say or if I rambled a bit. But usually like, you want like those kind of lists to be around 10 minutes. What I've been trying to do recently is actually try to get myself to speak slower, because oh my God, because I can go through like a whole list like this. And if I was to be like, number 10 is this, and this is why I like it, and number 9 is this, and this is why I like it. And I tend to talk quickly anyway. And what I've found is like, I've started to speak slower in my videos, or I've tried to at least. And like I've noticed that just speaking slower adds a minute or two to my videos, just because I'm not rushing through it. So really, a lot of that is going to be also like what your style is and stuff. Because I've seen people have top 10 lists that are 5 minutes, and I've seen people have top 10 lists that are like 20, 30 minutes. And I'm like, why is it that long? But anyway. um, Let's see. Oh, your very funky top 10. Your funky top 10 introduced me to old school company and brought back and I'm like, can't read this morning. And I bought the track on iTunes from the anthology compilation. I can't afford much but one song per paycheck, but that was the one. Exactly. That's how you do it. And if you're going to, if you're going to build your collection one song at a time, this is actually the age to do that in. you know you do you do save a little bit of money though, if you buy like, because you can buy one song for $1, or you can buy, an album of 14 songs for $10. So I don't know, you might want to save up and then buy a bunch all at once, because you can save a little bit that way. It's Nobody cares about that. Teresa, hey Teresa, this is the most important channel on YouTube and the turnout. Thank you. I don't know if I would say I'm the most important channel here or my other channel. And for anybody who doesn't know, the turnout is my other channel. That's where I talk pretty much about non-Prince things. It's called the Turnout. I started it a couple of months ago, and I like it. I actually plan on doing a live stream there right after this one, because I have a topic there that I want to kind of address as well. HTTP, let me see. youtube.com/the turnout. There you go. So if anybody wants to go check that out, I put a link to the turnout in the chat. It's a fun channel. I enjoy doing it because I get to talk about all the things that are non-Prince that I actually do love. And I love Prince more than just about anything. But I do like other stuff, like Buffy and like I like Buffy and I like movies and stuff. And sometimes I would talk about that in my live streams here on Prince's Friend. But now I have a whole channel for that. So it's pretty cool. This is funny, but in English slang, a turnout means poop. That's funny. That is funny. Well, it's the turnout, not a turnout. But also in the dictionary definition of a turnout is like, what was the turnout like for a concert or for a movie and stuff like that. So that's why it's called the turnout. But that's funny. That's funny. Maybe that's why I don't have many English people, I guess, on that channel. Because people are like, why would I want to subscribe to a channel about poop? Um, also, like in, American slang, turning somebody out is to like pimp them. And it's just like, that's why it's not called, turning me out. It's not called my turning out. It's the turnout. Trying to go with the dictionary definition of the word. And hopefully that will. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so anyway, that is actually a whole lot of questions. That was more questions than I was planning on going through. So, so yeah, Smooth Criminal. Yeah, you have a lot of interest. You have 3 channels. I actually have 4 channels. It's funny because my 3rd channel, which is called MPQ Mastery, it's just basically about like my favorite mobile game that I play, and that one just hit 1,000 subs. So I was like, yes, thank you, that's awesome. So yeah, and I plan on probably doing a quick live stream this morning on that channel too. Today is live stream day. I'm just going to do a live stream on all my channels. Because why not? Because I don't have Evan here and I don't have anything to do. So this is what I'm doing, having fun with some of my favorite people. So thank you to the dozens of people who actually showed up at this very impromptu live stream. I know I get like, a lot of people in the my normal monthly ones, but like every time I throw up just a random live stream here, I'm always like, wow, like I'm just surprised that you guys like weren't doing anything also on Sunday morning. So so anyway, yeah, so thank you so much, guys, for coming to Prince's Friend, hanging out with me and having a fun time talking about like how you make lists and how I make lists specifically, but just hopefully that gives you maybe just a little bit more insight into how I do it so that maybe you understand the intent behind it as well, because there's people who are just like, oh, you have later songs on there just to kind of, you're trying to trash the earlier songs. It's like, nah, I like earlier songs too. That's why they're on the list as well. If I had there was somebody who's always like, you have something against 80s songs? And I'm like, no, that's why I love the 80s songs. And they end up on the list too. Maybe they're not as high as the other songs, but I like them. So anyway, don't forget to check us out on social media. That's at Princess Friend YT. And because I do post different stuff different places. If you actually follow my Instagram, for instance, I've been posting up clips of me singing on there. And actually, oh man, I didn't do one this week. So I didn't do one this week, but I did one like the week before and the week before and the week before. But apparently I forgot one. I've been trying to do like one a week, but I didn't do one. Didn't do one there. So so what I'm going to do is check out my Instagram because I do post those. On Twitter, I end up having a bunch of conversations with people, sometimes arguments, which is fun. And Facebook usually gets like, that's like where I throw like links to the other stuff that I do. I throw them on Facebook. So if you follow me on Facebook, then you probably have that. You've probably seen most of the other things. You've seen at least a couple of the Instagram ones. I don't post them all to Facebook, but you've seen at least a couple of them. And some of my no, these tweets don't go on Facebook. Some of those tweets are just crazy. So anyway, so check that out. Don't forget to also check out the Patreon. That's patreon.com/princessfriend. And that's where I actually give like lots of outtakes. What I've been starting to do on the Patreon, which is a lot of fun, is I've been going through some of my old like rare Prince clips and stuff like that, and I've been sharing those with my patrons because you can't put it up on YouTube. You just can't. You just can't. But since I have like my own little private club, essentially the Princess Friend fan club, essentially is what the Patreon is. Um, I went ahead and I can throw them in there, and you guys can all enjoy them if you're a patron. Obviously, there is a thing that you have to do to become a patron. So excuse me. So go check out the Patreon, patreon.com/princessfriend. And not only do I let the patrons kind of, I give them stuff every so often, like stickers and whatnot. I do give outtakes and like extra parts. Like usually if I do interviews, then I'll edit out stuff that doesn't flow with the main conversation. But like we go on a lot of side tangents whenever I do interviews because I don't know how to keep on topic. And what ends up happening with that stuff that gets cut is I give it to the patrons, and you guys get to see all the behind the scenes. Again, my favorite one, my favorite behind the scenes thing was in my interview with Shelby J, where she was singing about her throat being dry and like stuff like that. Like that didn't show up in the actual interview that everybody else got, but the patrons got that because I felt like that was a special something that I feel if you're going to support the channel and you're going to really like help us grow, that's you deserve a little bit extra. That's what I like to give. So there's that. So, and then check out princessfriend.com. That's the website that my associates, my associate Kari, she actually heads that one up. So anytime we have like a press release or we find out some Prince news, we do throw it up on there. So you can definitely go check that out. It's probably not as comprehensive as it could be, but we're trying. We do have the event calendar on there, and we do have we're starting to come up with like playlists. So we're gonna try and like come up with some interesting playlists that maybe will give you guys new ways to listen to Prince in different orders and stuff like that. So we're trying different stuff that hopefully that stuff ends up working out. So anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. May you live to see the dawn. I definitely love you all, especially you